What's up YouTube? In today's video, I want to be giving you the official position and movement guide. So one thing that you have to understand, I do just want to make a movement guide, but in order to get down movement, you have to have positioning. So that leads into my first tip for how to get good movement is to have positioning. Now this is a very general tip, a very broad tip, and honestly this could be in its entire video on its own. Positioning is a very hard subject to fully explain in an advanced manner, but if you want to have good movement, you have to be able to position yourself in places where your movement would be able to get you. So just knowing to peek in correct ways. So if I'm swinging the left side of the sword, obviously peeking to the left, you know, basic stuff like that. So first of all, get your positioning down, how you position yourself, if you're positioned crouched, if you're positioning standing, if you're positioning prone, that all can be tied into movement. So that's what I'll talk about first in terms of my movement guide is, do you stand, do you crouch, do you prone, and when do you do all three of these things? Well, first of all, in normal gunfights, I'd say probably plat and below, people do not aim head level most of the time. You'll have the average player who aims head level before they get into the gunfight, but as people get into the gunfight, they naturally just start aiming towards the body because it's the safest way to be able to kill somebody because a lot of people crouch, right? So if you go into plat and below crouching, you're probably going to just get headshot because people don't aim head level half the time. So what I would do is I would just stand everywhere. Crouching is probably the most overrated thing in the entirety of Rainbow Six Siege. Maybe pre-firing, but still crouching is pretty overrated. Not even in Siege, but every single game you play, crouching is extremely overrated because again, people do not aim head level, they aim crouch level and they will headshot you, right? Also, you make a lot of noise when you're crouched, so you don't want to be crouching mid-gunfight unless you're just quick peeking, right? Which brings me on to my second point. When do you crouch, right? You stand normally whenever you're in gunfights, but there is an exception, which is actually a pretty common exception. Let's say that I have a guy in barrels, right? Let's open this up really quick. And he's in here, and we're having this little, like, quick peek standoff, right? This is a pretty common thing that happens, especially if you have head holes here, too. A lot of people will open up head holes here, and they'll stand behind the wall, and they'll sit behind this reinforcement right here, and they'll just quick peek, right? So either way, these are two pretty common quick peek spots. One thing that you want to do, though, is whenever you're quick peeking, right? So let's say I'm quick peeking, I see him, he sees me. What's going to happen if you quick peek standing again for the second or third time is they're going to pre-fire you, right? Because if I'm a player and someone quick peeks me on this doorway, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to start pre-firing here, right? Because he might quick peek me again, and then I'll be able to get his head really freely, right? So being able to pre-fire there is extremely important. But what you want to do, if you're the person that's quick peeking that's about to get pre-fired, you quick peek once, you see him, immediately crouch, and then quick peek again. That's when you want to be crouching, is whenever they're expecting you to be standing, right? So I'm quick peeking, I see him, okay, I don't want to quick peek again, I quick peek crouch, and then I go for the kill, right? That way you don't get pre-fired. I pre-fire kids, like I said, commonly whenever they quick peek, and if they crouch, normally they'll kill me, right? So being able to crouch and then peek afterwards is very powerful. Now, if you've been in a game and you've been doing it to people, you can switch it up a bit. You can quick peek crouched and then stand up. That way the enemy doesn't like pre-fire your crouching spot and expect you to do that. But just mix it up, right? You never want to be actually shooting and peeking where you quick peeked, or else you're going to get pre-fired, and that is where you would normally use crouching. Another example, let's say you get drone. People throw drones through these white stairs commonly to get the lockers player right here, or the player on top of these boxes, either way. In terms of actual movement, whenever you're crouching, if they drone you and they see you're standing here, you can pretend like you don't see the drone, and then once they get off their drone, again, you crouch and you can hit them, or vice versa. You can prone, right? Once they drone you and they see that you're prone, you can immediately stand up and re-peek the same angle. Now for people on PC, I do not at all recommend you prone ever, because proning makes a loud sound cue. Just listen to this. Now for your POV, it may not sound like a lot, but for an enemy POV, if someone prones on that staircase, I can easily hear that, and all I have to do is aim at the ground level, and I'll be able to hit his head, right? So you never want to be proning unless you absolutely have to and you have no other choice, or you're trying to bait kills with proning like this. Once they drone you, you prone, and you stand up, and then you kill them, right? So another good example, let's say you're in a clutch situation. You prone in clutch situations because it's the last thing that they're going to expect you to do, and you might be able to get a free one off of it. Let's say you're in a 1v4, and you know, you're playing like Harry Potter or something. You pre-fire here, you pre-fire here, you prone if they throw like an explosive or they make noise, and then once they come around, easy kill, stand up, go somewhere else, right? So you only want to be proning in last resorts. You want to be proning in places where they're not going to check. So let's say I'm an attacker and there's head holes here. A lot of times people will come into freezer, and this is how they'll clear, right? They'll come in, they'll clear here, they'll clear laundry, and then they'll clear the hallway. They're not going to be expecting somebody to be prone right here waiting for you to cross the head holes, right? Because once people clear all the common angles, they're gonna run across here. And once they run across here, you being prone somewhere can easily kill them, right? Like I said, you only want to be using that in 1vx scenarios where you use proning to get a kill and then you run away, but that is when you would use proning. So in this guide, so far we've talked about when to stand, when to crouch, when to prone, and how to do all of that whenever you're peeking or in a gunfight. And let's talk about sprinting versus walking versus alt walking. So this is walking, this is alt walking, and this is sprinting. They all have their various uses. If you're trying to get around the map faster, you're trying to reposition yourself after a kill, I recommend sprinting. Good example, you get a kill here in a 1 or 2vx scenario and you know they're pushing freezer or laundry. Immediately once you get a kill, and this goes for any scenario ever, once you get a kill, immediately leave and reposition yourself somewhere else. Because once you kill somebody, the person that dies to you is going to call out like, hey, he's over here. But if you move, that information goes to waste and is no longer accurate, right? So you can use sprinting to speed up this process. Let's say I get a kill here, right? And there's more people in tunnel. I get a kill, I immediately sprint over to the door so that when they try to refrag me behind barrels, I get a free kill, right? So using sprinting to reposition yourself is a good thing for movement. If you want to learn when to alt walking is a great thing to do if you're flanking, especially if you're a 3-speed. So let's say that they're planting right here, and I just got a kill over here. Now what they're gonna do and expect me to do is they're gonna expect me to come from either the rotate or the hallway. What I can do is I can make a bunch of noise over here, and I can alt walk this way, and then catch them by surprise eventually by killing them like that, right? So alt walking is great until you get to the initial point of contact. Let's say again, he's planting there. Once I get to a point where I could easily just swing out, I don't want to be alt walking the entire way and then shooting, right? Because alt walking is slow. The cool thing about this game is peeker's advantage for, you know, obviously the person that's peeking. It's not so cool for everybody else. But peeker's advantage is good because of server lag. If I peek someone, I can see them and react to them a lot better than if I were the one being peeked. If I were the one being peeked, I could see them for maybe a millisecond and then I'd be dead. But the person who swung me would have like 3 seconds to react purely because of server lag. If you've ever watched a kill cam, you know this. Swinging somebody is a lot better than just holding an angle just because of peeker's advantage. This being said, the faster you're able to peek somebody, the better, right? So alt walking or just walking in general is good, but once you get to the point where you know where they are and you're going to swing them, immediately sprint and do so, right? So it gives them even less time to react to you. So that's when you would use sprinting, you'd use alt walks to flank or to get behind somebody, and then you would immediately sprint after. You would never really use walking unless you're trying to like alt walk somewhere really fast. So if I'm flanking from the staircase right here, and I get a kill and I'm trying to again deny the same person from planting, I wouldn't just sprint around here and then deny the plant, right? Because that makes so much noise and he has so much time to react. What I would do is I would mix walking and alt walking, right? So I go here, I'd walk, and once I know where I get to the point where he's gonna hear me, then I would alt walk, right? Or if he's making a bunch of noise, I can then walk, alt walk, walk, alt walk, walk, alt walk. But you can mix the two in between to be able to cover distance faster, but also not make noise. So knowing like when to walk, alt walk, and mix that combo in is very powerful. Knowing when to sprint and knowing when to sprint is also very powerful. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about with that. So we've gone over when to crouch, when to stand, when to prone, how to quick peek with all 3 of those levels, when to alt walk, when to sprint, and when to normally walk. So the last tip that I'm going to give you for a movement guide is going to be how to peek things and how to swing things, right? Knowing how to swing things is probably the most important thing when it comes to a movement guide, because like I said, you're in a game where there's server lag and the people who peek have peeker's advantage and are going to probably win the gunfight 9 times out of 10, right? So you need to learn how to peek correctly. So first thing obviously is quick peeking for info. You need to learn how to actually quick peek correctly. I've talked about this in a lot of videos. I'm not going to do a quick peek guide. If you want that from me though, let me know in the comments and I'll make that for you by the end of this week. But that being said, you need to learn how to quick peek. You need to learn which side to peek from, right? Do I peek from the right side of the door or do I peek from the left side of the door? Or I'm sorry, I said right when I was on the left, whatever. But you know what I mean, right side or left side. Do you peek right when you swing or do you peek left when you swing? You have to learn which way to lean whenever you're peeking. And then also, if there's multiple ways that you can peek a doorway, right? Do I peek the doorway like this from the left or do I come around here and I peek it from the right? So you kind of have to know when to do all of these certain things. So I'll give you a really good example, right? If I'm trying to retake this box and this room because the enemies have the site and I don't, I never want to come around from the staircase and peek like this. This is a bad idea, right? It's a bad idea because if I peek like this, I'm exposed to this hallway, right? So what you want to do is you want to peek around and then you want to peek the doorway like this and hold a tight angle. And then if you want to clear this room, you wait until you cross the hallway and then you come in and you clear it like that. And then I wouldn't come over and peek to the left. You risk anybody sitting in here. But if I lean to the right and I peek here, and I make sure no one's in this corner, and then I peek around and pre-fire, and then I come in and I peek around, right? Then that's a lot better than just doing it the opposite way. So learning where to lean, when to peek, where to peek is all very, very important. So I hope you learned something from this video. With that out of the way, that's pretty much it for the entire video. Again, if you want a quick leaning guide or a movement guide, let me know down in the comments below. If you like the video, sub to the channel. My name is Alka, and I will see you in the next video. Later.